I'm with Rachelli Roggel from Rehovot. Now, your parents came from Iraq after a pogrom. How did they journey here into Israel?
The pogrom was in 1941. We didn't hear too much about it. But after the Independence War, when they wanted to leave Iraq, they had to leave everything. They couldn't get anything with them. And on their passport, there was written the journey, going without coming back. There is even a saying in Arabic, "Ohab al-Raj'a," which means like you're going and you will never be able to return. So they left everything, the house and the money and the stores, and came to Israel because they wanted to be here.
Was it dangerous to get here?
Some of it, yes, because they had to go sometimes through Iran. They had to smuggle a border. So they paid money to people who are not trustworthy. Sometimes those people took the money and left them in the middle of nowhere, and they had to manage. They lived in a cemetery, kind of like not exactly the best way to go through winter. So it was dangerous. But they wanted to come here. And they never complained. Never complained about coming here. Even though they left a lot of things and a lot of good things there, they never complained about it. I kind of never heard my parents complain.
And of course, this is the very early days of Israel when they came into Israel, isn't it?
Yeah. They lived from a house into a tent. And it was the year that it rained and it snowed even in Tel Aviv, okay? So they were in a tent. Can you imagine living in a tent without anything, just a bed or with all your kids and no privacy and no cooking? It was terrible when you think about it, but they didn't complain about it.
So they left all their riches in Iraq and came to live in a tent?
Yes. Yes. Later on, they got hut. They came, at the beginning, they got a tent, and then they kind of moved into not a house, it's a hut, wooden hut. And I remember going to visit my grandma in that wooden hut. And then they moved to a house. The wooden hut was considered to be, wow, luxury, really. They didn't have a toilet in the house. They had a toilet outside. And to think that my parents my father was a goldsmith, so they were very well-to-do people. And all of a sudden, you have to go to the bathroom outside, and it was rough. But
was it very dangerous for them living in Iraq at the time?
When they lived in Iraq, listen, after 1941, my father always used to say, you can never believe the Muslims because they were our friends. And when I'm talking about the pogrom, they murdered 175 people. They butchered them. They raped them. They did what Hamas did one day. They did it for 2 days. The British didn't help them for 2 days. It was between regimes. And the British did not help. They let them murder and kill for 2 days before they intervened. So my father said always that you can never trust the Muslims.
So they came to Israel instead?
Yeah.
Now, you do artwork which is inspired by the Holocaust. Tell us about some of the pieces that you've made.
I made pieces about my husband's parents, my in-laws. They had 2 different experiences. My mother-in-law, when she was 16, she had her sweet 16 birthday at the gates of Auschwitz. It was on Shavuot, which is a holiday. By the way, the 1941 massacre and riot in Iraq were on Shavuot, which is around May, June. And she was 16 years old. She was tall, she was redheaded, and she got a lot of beating because of that. And she was with her sister, which was a good thing to be with your sister there. And she was with her cousin too. She's from Hungary. And she was 16. What can you say to a person who's 16 going through Auschwitz? It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to go through Auschwitz.
What about the other parts of the family as well?
My father-in-law, he was in a labor camp, okay? But his father was sent to Bergen-Belsen and died there of hunger. His mother and his 3 other siblings were saved by Writers Among Nations, Maria Grausenburger from Austria. And they turned out to be that one of the kids that she saved was the one who brought Eichmann to Israel for the trial. He was the one who, sitting next to him, took a photo of him, forged his documents to get him out of Argentina. So it was coming for a full circle with that lady who really, we can't say enough, think that she saved them.
And did his mother come to Israel to live in the Holy Land?
His mother, how was it? She was very busy in establishing the kibbutz and working, and she was a very happy person. She was a very happy person. Colorful, cheerful, a wonderful person. A wonderful person. She put it aside, but it's always there. When she'd been with her husband to Greece, and they were standing in line to see the Acropolis, she couldn't stand. She couldn't stand people with packages. It reminded her of Auschwitz. It reminded her of the morning count and so on. Or she walked to Germany and she walked into Germany and there were dog barking. Small things that reminded her of it.
How easy was it for her to actually come here to the Holy Land after Auschwitz?
Yeah, after Auschwitz. Okay. She luckily found her brother and she was going through Italy. And she came on a ship, Kaf Gimel Yordei Asira. The British caught them, sent them to Cyprus with barbed wire. And it took her like 2 or 3 months to get back to Israel. And then she been to Yagur and she established a kibbutz and so on. But she's been to Cyprus.
So even though she escaped the Holocaust, she still ended up there in Cyprus, not being where she really wanted to be.
Exactly. But she was not the one to complain. She was not the one to complain. And I'm very glad that she had 2 children, because what she was going in Auschwitz was things that can make you be never pregnant. So the fact that she had 2 children and she raised them was really lucky.
And you do artwork based on the stories of their lives?
Yes, I do. Yes, I did. I took her dress when she died. I took her dress, and it looks very colorful. It looks with flowers. It looks cheerful, but when you look closely, you see that there is the imprint of Auschwitz. I used buttons and buttonholes, and I did all the barracks in Auschwitz. What I did all the barracks as buttonholes. A buttonhole, even if you fix it, there is always there a sign or a hurt. And so you don't see that at the beginning when you look at the quilt. It's colorful, it has flowers. I was asked to make a quilt about motherhood. And I thought about her. So I got lucky to get a dress of her after she died. I got a dress. I wanted the black dress that she used to wear. She looked wonderful in the black dress. And we were at my husband's cousin and uncle, and he gave me the dress that he had. And after I did the work on the dress, I said that it was going all over the world. It was exhibited all over the world. And I said that even though it's insured, I'm very afraid something will happen to that dress. So the wife of his uncle said, I have here a bag with some stuff, maybe take it. So I opened the bag, and what do I see there? The black dress that I wanted. And my daughter, who buried the name of my mother-in-law, is wearing that dress whenever she is pregnant. And she had 4 pregnancies. The dress that I made the quilt on, it looks very colorful. And at the beginning, you see the train track, and then you see them with the greenery, with plants, and then you see the flowers. And it is, as I said, it's cheerful, it's colorful, but when you look deeper, you see the imprint of Auschwitz, and the brackets are made from buttonholes. When you fix a buttonhole, you can always see there was a buttonhole there. She fixed her life, but it was there all the time. It was on the back of her head. When she was busy, she didn't really think about it, but when she was quiet and when the kids left the house, then it came back. It was more obvious. But I always thank her for raising children like the way she raised them.
So when you look at your art, it can look beautiful, it can look fine, but then if you actually look deeper, then you find out there's a real darker story. So like a beautiful one about someone's life, but really it's all about Auschwitz.
Here it is. People look at this quilt and really enjoying it. And then when we came and explained to them what it is all about, they start crying because it doesn't look. Does it look like a Holocaust?
So this looks like a dress, and it's just got beautiful coloured buttons everywhere, but really the whole meaning of this is the Holocaust.
It is. That's a Holocaust. That's her dress. I remember her. We have. I can tell you something else. There were lectures about my work in the Israeli Museum, and she did presentation, and I gave her a photo of us standing with his mother with this dress. I knew the photo. I mean, it's not something, but she enlarged it, and all of a sudden I started crying because I don't know. His mother came to life. It was huge. And my kids say, Mom, stop crying. She was a wonderful mother-in-law.
You've made loads of artwork, particularly about the Holocaust. Where have some of these artworks been displayed?
All over France, United States, zillions of places in the United States, here in Israel. They teach them in the university. They wrote a PhD about them. But I want to say something that I started working about the Holocaust not because of Amir. I started working on the Holocaust because as a child, I lived in Givatayim. Many people came from the Holocaust in Givatayim. Many of them had a number on their arm. And my best friend, her mother was the one who gave testimony in Eichmann trial. And when I was on the second grade, she came and she said her testimony was 3 minutes. It was the smallest testimony ever given in over 100 testimony there were there. And she was holding a photo, and Gideon Hausner asked her, why are you smiling on the photo? What are you smiling at? She said, I told my friends in Ghetto Lodge. She didn't say the Ghetto Lodge. I told my friends, let's pretend that tomorrow is going to be a happy day. A month later, they were all exterminated, okay? I didn't know the name of the place. I was second grade. I didn't know too much. And then when my daughter, a couple of years ago, when my daughter was on the 11th grade, I opened a history book, and all of a sudden I see somebody who looks exactly like my friend. I realized that's her. That's the mother. And it's Ghetto Lodge. Ghetto Lodge. So I made an artwork about Ghetto Lodge. Ghetto Lodge kids, 10 years old, could be alive because they could sew buttons. Okay? Buttons save them. So here it is. Something that looks like flower, you see, 4 flowers, right? And then if you take it down, it's like the children, like a child drawing a child, you see, the legs and the hands, okay? And then there is something under, very colorful. Every button here is a different button, and every button here is either old, broken, or something childish. Because Romkowski in 1941 said, give me your children and old ones so I can save the rest, and nobody gave him the children. So this is the Lodge ghetto, and those are buttons, are broken buttons. And those flowers, they're not flowers. They're the 4 burial forests, 4 burial pits where they put the kids in. And those are beads that are bone beads, and the center of the flower are replica of the buttons that are found from Lodge and are in the museum in Yad Vashem. So it looks naive and it looks cute and it looks childish, but that's Lodge.
Is this a great way of teaching the Holocaust to younger people particularly?
Yeah, because it looks so nice and you want to hear what it is, and I ask you and I'm teaching you a part that in a different way. Because sometimes people don't want to hear about atrocities, and they don't want to see atrocities, and, don't talk to me about it. But here it's so nice. It's colorful. Oh, I remember there is an ice cream button here. Oh, there is, you see, a house here. There is a spoon. There is something else. They are looking at it, and I can tell them that the kids were, at the end, driven in buses where they were, a muffler was in the bus, so they were suffocated on the way. Wow. So they opened the bus and they were gassed.
Yeah. Now, you also done some artwork for the 13 soldiers who were killed on Yom Kippur. Tell us about that.
Okay. First of all, I do things that made me, I had to have, moves me, otherwise I cannot. Someone can come and walk and tell me, do a work, I can't do that. No, I have to be shocked. I have to be shocked. And it was a Yom Kippur War. There were 13 people on army car. and it was with explosive. So there were 13 soldiers in a car that has explosive in it. And it was in Khan Arnabe, north part of Israel, Ramat HaGolan. Somebody shot them, so they were all blown up, and nothing was left beside the door of that car. I heard about it, and I realized that some of the people were there growing flowers, Anyway, I realized that most of them had to do something related to flowers, okay? After I made the work, this looks pretty, of course, I used to come to their gathering every year. 10 years ago, when it was 40 years to Yom Kippur, one of the guys, Said Moshe, stood up and said he wanted to tell us how he, who was around this area, learned that his brother was killed. How did he tell his parents about it? And he said he wasn't sure his brother was in this group. 2 days later, he started going to his house, which was in Nir Oz. Nir Oz. If we now know Nir Oz of what happened in Nir Oz, he was from there. And he didn't want to tell his parents first. So he told his wife. And then he told the mother of the wife of his brother. And then he told the husband of his brother. It took him a whole week till he got to Simchat Torah. On Simchat Torah, he got to the house. His mother understood immediately that something happened to her son, but they were waiting for the father to come from the synagogue at Simchat Torah. When the father entered, the mother said only 2 words in Arabic, in Iraqi Arabic, in Hajam Betna. And I start crying. My parents are from Iraq, right? And Hajam Betna in Iraqi means it was demolished. It was wiped out. There is nothing left. But it was metaphoric. I start working on making a work about this story, how he told the story. And we got to, I didn't get on time. And there was an exhibit, but there was also a gathering of the family, of the whole group. I wanted to finish the quilt. That was Saturday, 7th October. I called the day later on Sunday, 8th October, to the family, and I say, how are you doing? They said, Said Moshe was murdered. His wife was...
That's by Hamas, yeah.
Yeah. His wife was kidnapped. And I was working on him, just like I was working on that piece. His wife, Adina, was returned as a hostage, was among the first group that returned from that war. So it's kind of like... it's hard to believe. It's hard. He was 82 years old. He was the one responsible for the potato growth in South Israel. Very vibrant person. And I thought, why did I cry? Why did I cry? She just said it in Arabic. Why did I cry? Because I usually tell my stories in Hebrew and in English. I never thought of war in Arabic. And till 6 years old, I heard Arabic, Jewish Iraqi Arabic. It's not the same as Muslim is Iraqi. And all of a sudden, that rang a bell of when do you say this sentence when it's really traumatized. So now his house, our house, is in Hajam Betna, was a real thing. Their house was demolished. His house was demolished, not metaphorically.
This is by Hamas, you mean, in Nahal Oz, was it?
Okay. Yeah, his house was demolished on Simchat Torah 50 years later, you see? I mean, at the beginning it was a metaphor, and now it was the real thing.
Now, Israel has just suffered a terrible terrorist attack on the 7th of October. Have you done any artwork to do with the terrorist attack?
Yes, I did now. I took the Gaza Strip, made it into 2 parts. And I use war dolls, small dolls, here it is. And you can see mutilated. War dolls are small dolls that if you sleep at night, if you put them under the pillow when you sleep at night, they worry instead of you, And in the morning, you can decide if you want to keep worrying about something. I took all these war dolls, and they are cut and brutalated like Hamas did. And there is here the tractor that pushed the wall, and the Hamas.
Here with Hamas, they've got green across their faces, so that tells you that it's Hamas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the sign. Everybody knew there was a sign. And on the other side, I must admit, on the other side, there are the burns, the people who are burned alive, the baby who was in the oven burned alive. And they were, if you can see that, they are undressed Their dresses are pushed and they are being raped. And that was extremely, extremely, extremely hard to do. I was like thinking of each of them that was raped, the one who was on the truck, and you could see her leg were totally taken away from, totally not in place, and the people who are naked, and all those photos that they send it on Telegram. When I was doing it, I was thinking about it. Poor, 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 poor woman who had gone to lived hell by being raped by tens of people and been shot after that and been burned alive. And just awful. It's just something that you can never forget.
With focusing so much on the Holocaust in your artwork and then this terrible attack that happened on the 7th of October, how did it make you feel?
Even worse. I mean, it's like we could never believe this can happen. Never believe this can happen. Never. I mean, the Holocaust was, we were Jews, we didn't have a state, we didn't have army, we didn't have anything to protect us. This has happened here. I mean, it's just like this has happened by people who worked in Israel, who got their salary from Israel, who got the water from Israel, and they're paying us with this? I mean, they're paying us with killing us, butcher us? It's total, you cannot even accept it. It's just something that, it's awful. It's the worst. It's worse than ISIS. It's worse than ISIS.
What is your prayer for the future of Israel at the moment?
First of all, we are all damaged now, mentally. We're all damaged now. It's traumatic. This happened, it's traumatic. And everybody knows somebody who knows somebody. We'll have to come alive and, we have no other choice. If it happened in our state, we have no other choice. This is a place where we're going to be. We have no other choice. This is our place. If it can happen here, of course it can happen and I'm glad that Germany took us, stand on our side.
Well, Rachelli, thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.